Nice shorts.
Thank you. This is a pretty, we were not fucking around with you when we said beach bodies. We do not fuck around with our audience. That is not what we're here to do. We're not here to fuck. I don't know what would make you think that. That's implausible. Welcome, 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 humans and gentle humans, to the latest and the greatest San Francisco Cliterary Salon! That's right, folks. It is our Beach Bodies show. Remember our slogan, fear the clit, it rules the deep. That's right, folks. We've got 3 classic summer activities going tonight. Fun, sun, and squamous elder gods. Say it with me, folks. Fear the clit, it rules the deep. Fear the clit, it rules the deep. Yeah, clit Thulu Fatagan. I'm your MC tonight, Lewis Evans, the original Clitus Clitorano. I'm so happy to be with you all at Cliterary Salon in the historic Conservatory Speakeasy. Give it up for our venue, and remember to tip your bartenders.
Yeah!
Before we get started tonight, I just want to shout out to all the folks who make this happen, who you might not see up on the stage. There's Bronica over at the bar.
Yay!
There's Chris on the lights, the sound, the whole thing, really. I would be a silent darkness. It would be like watching a Are we gonna go? Folks, we've added a battle royale to the second half of tonight's program. Me and Chris are gonna fucking go. You're not gonna see any of it though. You're just gonna have to imagine with your brains what it would look like if we got a little, Captain Kirk shirtless and did karate chops to each other's bodies. I retract all of your permission to imagine that. We got no, it's fine. There are no thought crimes. No thought crimes. Unless you're thinking bad shit about Big Brother, in which case get the fuck out of this bar. It's an Orwell joke. Everyone loves it because our world is also nightmarish. You're all laughing right now. 2 + 2 is 5 and you find me hilarious. I wasn't planning on a 1984 riff. We could do an Animal Farm riff. I can come out with like a pig situation. They're like, oink, oink, the state is always good.
It's a fucking beach show. Do the beach thing.
The beach is a liminal space that connects land and the endless deep. I can do whatever the fuck I want. This is gonna be a 40-minute set about how airports are not a nice place to be. Have you ever been in one of those? Don't!
Harvard.
Brian, down at the door. I do want to get through a couple quick items of Speakeasy Biz real fast. This is an actual speakeasy. We're not fucking around with the beach show. We are wearing swimwear. This is an actual speakeasy. Do not tag it, because that would be bad. Like, narc bad. Like, feel free to rat on the president, but don't rat on this fucking bar. Some of us are on political Twitter. It's fine. These beach balls are apparently up for grabs. I can't promise that they're not secretly like giant single-celled organisms that will divide and divide and divide and fill your room while you sleep and suffocate you, but I also can't promise that they are that. So, you takes your balls, you takes your chances.
That's what he said.
Thank you. One more item of business. I think a lot of folks have seen this already, but technically that's not a cash bar. You'll be fascinated to know, because with cash at that bar, it's a bar, but with cash you can only buy non-alcoholic drinks, because this is not a place that serves alcoholic drinks, because that would be bad. Instead, this is a place where, coincidentally, you can buy tickets that are worth $4, $8, or $12 for 1, 2, or 3 tickets. $4 for 1 ticket, $8 for 2 tickets, $12 for 3 tickets. Some of us, hopefully most of us, passed multiplication. It's cool. And with those tickets, you can get, with 1 ticket, you can get wine or beer. With 2 tickets, you can get a mixed drink. And with 3 tickets, you can get a top shelf drink. I'm told that those of you who are drinkers know what the top shelf is. I don't. I assume it's like the blender that you don't know how to use. It's way up there. And then later on, your real blender breaks and you're like, shit. Those tickets do not include tips, and the staff at this non-cash, non-bar do work for tips. So if you are using a drink ticket and exchanging it for a beverage, make sure to separately, not include in the ticket, but with actual cash, tip your bartenders, which I think we already covered. All right. So I think that covers all of the speakeasy-related business and also an airport and apocalypse-themed improvisational number. Before we get started, I'd also like to recognize our artist, Katie Morton. Katie Morton is a trilingual choose-your-own-adventure book given human form, brewed in the chaos pits deep beneath Stanford University by research interns working overtime for extra credit. Katie is an all-loving, all-drawing, all-fucking, all-punning machine, and we're very lucky to have them in more ways than one. Make some noise. Normally, Katie brings some merch out, but they're actually feeling kind of under the weather today, so make a sympathetic noise. Great. But what you can do is you can take out your phones if you're an Instagram person. You can open up Instagram and you can follow at KatieGPM, K-A-T-I-E GPM. I do get my quarterly bonus based on the performance of that metric. So, and I live with them, so it's, please. All right. I know we're all ready for some clit action. I'm going to power straight through the rest of this. Please do the internet thing for this show as well. Tweet about us, #ClitSalon. Follow us on Facebook at Cliterary-Salon. I think that might be Literary Salon C, Facebook.com/Literary Salon C.
Zuckerberg.
Because Mark Zuckerberg is afraid of clitoris. We are on Twitter at ClitSalon because Jack is not afraid of the clitoris, but we also still hate Jack, don't worry. And we will be putting out all the saucy details about our upcoming show. Our next show, Cliterary Salon, Back to School, is scheduled for September 21st. Buy your tickets immediately. Listen, humans and gentle humans, we've got a great show, great lineup of authors. I spent way too much time at this preliminary material already. Without any further ado, I'm going to introduce the very first one. Our first reader is Meg Elison. Make more noise than that. She's a Cliterary Salon co-founder and co-producer, and if I fumble even a single word of the dread incantation that brings her onto this stage, none of us will live to see another sunrise. So hush, hush, as we prepare to summon your dread introductory queen. This is really good hush. Meg Elison is older than sin, and her heart can grow no darker. She wants to basically do it with the abyss. Every midwinter, you can laugh too, it's fine. It's fun. You're all gonna die, but you can laugh. Every midwinter, an ancient evil with flesh of oak and eyes of undead suns pleads with her to bestride the world like a colossus, meting out pleasure and pain in defiance of desert as a fundamental refutation of God. Each year she's like, pass. And yet the day of her acceptance draws near, and there will be a wailing and a gnashing of teeth like the opening bars of a really serious death metal track. Dramatic release of breath. Humans and gentle humans, I give you Meg Elison!
Thank you. So they said it was going to be beach bodies, and I decided not to fuck with you guys either. So this is the body that I take to the beach. Anybody who tells you that your body is not a beach body does not know what the fuck they are talking about. You take your body to the beach, bam, beach body. You put your body in a bikini, bam, bikini body. I'm only not wearing a bikini tonight because, let's face it, it would be over for you hoes if I did.
True.
So tonight's piece is called and is about first times. I recently read Guy Branum's spectacular memoir, My Life as a Goddess. It is a side-splittingly funny book when it isn't busily breaking your heart. Though I love memoir as an art form, it occurred to me how few of them I have read by queer writers, and how little their queerness often features when I have. I realize that this is partly because I prefer books by people who aren't men,
Yes.
and people who aren't men are often punished for any untoward display of their sexuality. One thing I have loved about queer community is that it has taught me that I have the right to define my own firsts. Branum's book does that beautifully when he dissects the first time he did stand-up. Not his literal first outing in a comedy class, nor the first time he went to an open mic, but the real first time. The time when he found his groove and fell into it. The time when it counted. The first time for real. I am telling you this combination of things about queerness and Guy Branum and comedy because I want to talk about sex. And if you're wondering why I've couched it this way, remember what I said before about people who aren't men. The high school that I attended in a rural conservative town in nowhere, California, was obsessed with vaginal virginity. Maybe all high schools are. It certainly forms a plot point in a lot of coming-of-age stories, but believe me when I say mine was more so than usual. We lived at the nexus of 7 very different, powerful Christian denominations, all of which placed a great deal of pressure on their teenage members to convert their friends. Dating people to convert them was a common tactic. Climbing up onto a lunch table while crying and demanding that people pray with you was only slightly less so. On one notable occasion, a group of boys dragged a net of some kind through the hallways whilst one of them read the Bible verse about being fishers of men. You get it? Yeah. Nobody put any kind of stop to this behavior, and reporting it would only get you a stern lecture about how students have the right to express their religious beliefs because of the First Amendment. That same amendment would suddenly experience very short supply when my friends and I started an underground newspaper, or organized pagan rituals around the flagpole in the morning. But that's a story from my own memoir someday. If you went to any high school in America, you know what happened next. The friction of one social group on another among teenagers makes everybody itch. The goths got gothier, the punks got punkier, the queer kids got daring. A friend of mine told a cheerleader that her boyfriend was hot in a crowded hallway and the school football team broke his jaw for him. And everybody thought constantly about the mythical, unstretched hymen. The Christian girls, from Mormons to evangelical Protestants to the gaudy Catholics of our valley, knew that the litmus test between their legs was the only way to measure whether they were good or not. The goth girls fetishized it, as they did with any combination of blood and sex. They wrote each other smutty RPF about being deflowered and drained by vampires in all one magical black lace night. The punks didn't romanticize anything, but they had the same problems we did: a lack of access to reliable birth control, and a weird societal fixation on penis-in-vagina intercourse. The queer kids were another story, and that story was my salvation. While everyone around us was convinced that there was one kind of sex that mattered, we were busy having the kind that they didn't even know about. Were we virgins? Were Gold Star lesbians lifelong virgins? Could you break your hymen with a tampon? Do boys even have a virginity to lose? I remember the term bahymen coming into shockingly colored The school was as fiercely anti-gay as a California public could be at the turn of the millennium. Our classmates were free to endlessly tell us we were going to hell, to tearfully pray for us, to call us the F-slur. Everybody clear on what the F-slur is, so I'm not going to say it. And dykes and hermaphrodites, but we were never permitted to retaliate in word or deed. The kid with the broken jaw never got anybody suspended. But a strange thing happened in the year before I dropped out. There were some clandestine cross-pollinations between the Christians and the queers. Obviously, there belonged some to the both tribes, but I didn't know anybody who did so openly. So questions and answers on virginity were answered by such heterocentric logic that someone realized that queer sex, not being real sex, framed a kind of magical loophole that the street kids could exploit. Dan Savage did not coin the term saddlebacking until 2009. Is anybody familiar with the term saddlebacking?
Woo!
One, okay. So it's named after the famous Saddleback Church, and it's the process by which Christian teenagers preserve their virginity by having everything but vaginal sex, which includes anal, if you think about that for a second. So you're still technically a virgin if you do everything but. But he was just putting a name to something. He was just putting a name to something that had been going on for a long time. Queer sex wasn't real sex. Ergo, oral, anal, manual, digital, and tribadism, the fancy word for grinding, did not count toward losing your virginity. They were passing the word like wildfire, excited they had hacked getting off. The goddamn straights had Columbused foreplay. As a budding and desperate baby bisexual, I was frustrated and elated about this by turns. I had an absolutely Elysian time fucking girls. I feel like I went to a finishing school in how to get women off, and learning what worked for me at the same time. I have since learned that a great deal of women who primarily or only sleep with men sometimes take years to learn the same things about themselves, because they're rarely empowered or encouraged to seek their own pleasure. However, I felt rejected any time I was with a cisgender male who didn't want to do the traditional deed. We do everything but. I sucked dick like a pro before I was old enough to have a profession. And I was basically the goodwill ambassador of the clitoris for a lot of straight guys. I found these acts perfectly satisfying if there wasn't a dick in the room. But the minute there was, I was a pouty monster of evolutionary biology, demanding to get fucked in the land of the fuckless. It wasn't until years later that I would be able to untangle this from my own internalized homophobia, my insecurity, my Freudian bullshit. And it also wasn't until years later that I realized that saddlebacking made us all better people. I had all these conversations with women who were married to men who did not reciprocate oral sex. Who couldn't be bothered to jack off a clit for 5 minutes. Or frankly do anything but get up, get in, and get off. Where did that behavior come from? Ah, yes, their earliest sexual experiences, when people didn't know they wanted anything else. I thought about all those straight kids who had basically learned to have gay sex, which is to say they learned to deprioritize BIV and decenter vaginal virginity from their identities. We had all graduated not only from high school, but also from a boring and restrictive definition of sex, and we had brought with us some very marketable skills. So I must return to the question of a first time. Virginity is a garbage construct designed to commodify women and normalize one specific sexual narrative. When we were kids, we used to try to prevaricate and clarify. What if your first time wasn't consensual? What if you don't remember it? What if you didn't do PIV, but you both came? What if you were a lesbian? When did your first time really happen? When did your life begin? Why would you let anybody but you answer that question? Remember being so young that you thought fucking somebody changed who you were?
Yeah.
Remember being so young that it did? Your first time was when you found your groove and fell into it. Your first time was the time that it felt right. Maybe it was momentous, and maybe it wasn't. Maybe you saw yourself afterward and you thought that you changed. Maybe you didn't. Maybe the P went in the V, maybe the D went in the A, maybe you got F'd and the only place you felt it was your heart. My name is Maggie Listen, and I lost my virginity to a girl in a swimming pool, to a boy in Germany, to a dragon I met only in dreams, to my husband, to my own fucking self. Thank you.
So, I'm going to introduce our next reader. I met Claire Sabry when she was 9 years old, painfully shy, and forced by her parents to talk to the weird bookstore lady, who, to be clear, was me. I was desperate to get her to engage with me. She had amazing taste, she read fucking everything, and I just wanted to talk to her. And to my surprise, one day, like a switch had been flipped after months of one-sided chats. She did. About Pokemon. Which, like, fine. But after that, when she came into the bookstore, I knew I'd be treated to a new and fascinating chat about why she liked one book or didn't like another. I looked forward to her visits. It made my stupid retail job feel super important. And it wasn't until a year or so later, when she was around 10, that I started tutoring her in creative writing. And by then, I'd realized she wasn't just a smart kid who read a ton of books. Because even when she was 10 fucking years old, it was clear. She had talent. And more importantly than that, she had a perspective that was, like, super particularly her own. She's never suffered adults telling her who she is, or what she should think, or what her goals should be. Witnessing her hone her talent, her perspective, and her voice, and watching her become an adult has been one of the great joys of my life. I have been telling her, since she was 12, that she better fucking name me in the acknowledgments of her books, and that if she thinks I am too classy not to cling to her coattails like a bit of sticky-ass space dust as she rockets into literary fame, she is wrong. Please welcome Claire Sabry.
I really don't know how I'm supposed to follow something like that because, well, since I was about 10 years old, Maggie has been probably the biggest inspiration and, I don't know, harasser of my writing, and I appreciate so much her advice and her harassing and her faith in me, and that has meant everything to me, and I definitely won't forget to acknowledge you, because I do every time I can. This piece is mostly about hating religion, and I wrote it a while ago where that was a bigger part of my life. And it's from 3 different characters' perspectives. There's Allie, a little girl, there's her father Brian, and her mother Lydia. And I will be reading from each of them a couple of times. And this is called Desert Stones. Allie. I peered through the screen door of our trailer. They were hunting again. It was the little girl, Madeline, Father William, and the hunters, men and women who had the God sight. They could see a witch. Madeline had a special kind of God sight. She was a short girl with golden hair and a clean dress. She was only my age, 8 years, but she had spotted 5 witches around the village, and here she was, standing here in our corner of Holy Valley, population 47. The village used to move around, but most of the cars were broken now, rusty lumps in the sand, just like everything else. My hands clutched the family picture, Mama, Da, and me as a baby, staring at a Polaroid camera. Da had said it was good luck. Please don't come for Mama. Please don't come here. Da stood beside me, but said nothing. He squinted against the desert sun, towards the foothills. He did that sometimes, when he was unhappy, like he wanted to leave. Mama wanted to leave, but we couldn't. There was nowhere to go. Madeline had stopped. She shuddered and started mumbling. She felt a witch. Father William clutched at his cross, holding it in front of him like a sword. Mama made that cross. She said she carved a curse right into it because she hated Father William. Da told her to be quiet. Madeline put the blindfold on. Then she started to spin, holding her hand out in front of her. My heart went thump, 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 and she spun and spun and spun. Then she stopped, stumbling a bit before pointing right at our trailer. There was a crash. I had dropped the picture. I picked it up with shaking hands. A crack had run straight through the middle. I ran to get Mama. I ran past the gallon bottles just filled from the spring, past the kitchen with a rusty pot under the sink, past the small bathroom with a toilet and shower head and nothing else. I pushed through the hanging curtain to the bedroom. Mama lay face down on the mattress, her dark hair fanned out across the pillow. She was tense in her sleep, clutching the scratchy sheets with both hands. I shook her and yelled, "Mama, Mama!" She opened her eyes and sat up. Her long, thin face was still blurred from sleep. I didn't have to say what happened. She already knew. She put her head in her hands and sighed. "Let's get ready then," she said. The hot water was on. Dad drew a bath for me in the tub and left to wash with Mama. I watched the dirt float on the metal rim. My bony arms and legs were pressed against the side. I rubbed my scalp with a bar of soap and rinsed my body. My hair was a color like dirt. But Mama said it was beautiful. She said that she loved me more than she could ever love God. Our holy pastor, Father William, said it was a sin to love anything more than God. From Brian. The bathroom tiles were wet and muddy. I rubbed Lydia's back with a damp cloth, wiping away the grime that cloaked her skin. Then she took the cloth and did the same to me. It was a bathing custom for newlyweds, but we had never really stopped loving each other. I ran my fingers through her hair, feeling its soft weight for the last time, and watched it fall in curtains around her neck. We washed slower than usual. There was an unspoken weight that pressed down on us. We dried and helped each other dress. I tied her long black dress behind her and handed her the coat. It was thick and dark, buttoning up the front, reaching all the way down to her ankles, despite her being as tall as I was. I painted her lips and kissed them lightly as she fixed her hat in place. It was a simple black one with black feathers. "Don't mourn for me. I know it's better for you this way," she said evenly, not looking at me. I put my arms around her, and she laid her head on my shoulder. We stood there, pain prickling my chest, but there was also guilt. Witches in the Holy Valley weren't burned, they were stoned to death by the entire village. Would I feel safer with her gone? Yes, but I did not want to lose her, to kill her. She took a shuddering breath and pushed away from my embrace. The fear on her face was shuttered, replaced with a proud look, her raised eyebrows and faint grin challenging anyone to oppose her. Allie walked slowly from the bedroom in a simple brown dress, and we stepped out of the trailer. Lydia didn't glance back. The villagers stared silently at us, dirty faces filled with contempt, all dressed in their Sunday best. She held out her hand, I took it, Allie took the other, and we walked to the procession. Father William led it, with 4 other pastors behind, then us, hand in hand, than the other families. A marching band made of a few young men beat on drums. Everyone, from the oldest grandfather to the youngest child, chanted prayers. Their voices rose like a cacophony of angry crows in the desert. From Allie. As we walked, I thought, the fathers had said no one could ever love my mother. Did I love Mama? Sometimes she scared me. She threw things. She cried. She defied God. Father William said that anyone who said or thought anything hateful about God or his followers was a sinner. She cursed God with everything she did, with the clothes she wore, with the paint on her face, with her words and her songs, but she could tell you such a beautiful story that would leave you sitting for hours, still ensnared in her voice, or sing a song to make you laugh or cry, or to fall asleep even if you were wide awake. Sometimes even Dad was afraid, but he loved her no matter what. So did I. She sang to me as she walked. It was a sinful song, but a lullaby that she sang to me when I was sick or scared. Maybe I was a bit like Mama, because I loved the beauty in sinful things. Pray into the splinters, pray unto your fear, pray your life was just a dream, the cut that never heals. From Brian. We were the youngest family in Holy Valley. Lydia and I ran away together when we were 18. She was a wild child. My dad told her to stay away from her, so of course I was utterly infatuated. She was so free, running into the night and telling me how she was going to find a way out of Holy Valley. It seemed so romantic at the time, but eventually we came back. There was nowhere to go. I was not so sure now if she loved me. She was so cold, so filled with dark. I was not sure if she could love at all, but sometimes I could see it. Like when she'd tell a bedtime story to Allie, or hold me when she was scared or angry or sad. Lydia was a carver. She had magic in her knives. She carved crosses for the village. She carved the Virgin Mary, Jesus, a manger, even animals that she found in old books or in the desert, and other darker things. She carved a raven when she was 14, with red eyes. Her parents tried to burn it, but it was made of strong wood and wouldn't light, so it sat, wooden feathers charred black, staring down anyone who entered her home. Allie's first toy was a wooden ladybug. It was exquisitely detailed down to the last dot on its back. Allie loved it. We called her our ladybird. She called her Da a hawk and her Ma a raven. Allie was our light. She kept us from drifting away. Before Allie, our love was killing each other. We loved each other, but we couldn't trust each other. I still feared God, in the way that Lydia disgraced him. I burned her curses, and she screamed at me. We'd fight, but soon we'd forget what we were fighting about. From Lydia. I kept my head high, above the priests, above everyone. It was my last act of refusal, and I took pleasure in the fear printed on the villagers' faces. A few children were already gathering stones. I wondered how they would feel. The plain was desolate. The desert, white with heat, drifted on until there was nothing but sand and sky. Once we passed the scrubby vegetable field, all signs of life disappeared. The first color I remember was white. The white heat of day, the white cold of night, the white of sand, the white of trailers, the white of the wood I carved. I hated white, but I hated dread more. All of the priests of Holy Valley were feared and worshipped, Father William above the rest. They showed us the way to heaven. We were God's chosen, to live without sin. Of course, I was always a sinner to them, always the villain. But Father Allen, he loved me all the same, like my father never had, and for that he died. I must have been 8 or 9. They brought Father Allen to the center of town, near the fire pit, and called us forward. Father Allen was kind. He had given me treasures, sea glass, smooth wood, and a beautiful raven feather. They took a cane to his back, each priest saying a prayer for his soul before they beat the life out of him. The ground was stained with red that day. It seemed to be stained forever on. Soon my blood would paint the ground too. I was thankful that it would end this way. At least they couldn't touch my family. Brian and Allie were the only ones who mattered anymore. The rest of the world could burn in hell for all I cared. The sand swallowed my boots. The sun melted my vision until I walked sightlessly on and on. I did not weep. I did not struggle. I only walked. Allie had held my hand cautiously. I knew she was afraid of me. Everyone was. Brian was. Father Allen, I was sure, would have been if he were still alive. It reminded me of an old friend and the song that she used to sing, an old lullaby of sorts. She was dead now. The song was the last thing she had ever given me. The child you love is the monster you fear. Now I was the monster, and I sang it loud and clear in the dry desert air. I let my eyes stray into the distance and hoped uselessly for a great big chasm to come and swallow everyone up. I saw the graves, wooden crosses above lumps of dirt. They made a grim spectacle. A few children mingled among them. One was Madeline, the little girl who saw witches. She glared at me, eyes narrowed against the sun, showing nothing but contempt. It was a look that all the villagers wore, save for my Brian and Allie. I did not see their expressions. I did not want to. Then I saw the clearing. It was in the ruins of an old building, plenty of rocks. I could see the blood on the ground, absorbed into the sand, to turn it a horrible red. Father William muttered prayers, spit flying from his lips as the village crowded around me, but I didn't bother to listen. I kissed Allie on the head and embraced Brian one last time, before I stepped into the ring. A breath of wind swept through. I closed my eyes and felt it rush past. I could still hear the song in my head, crackling from an old tape that was long gone. Dots of pain began to appear in the inside of my eyelids. Blood ran down my arms. I saw Allie and Brian in front of me. I reached out to them. From Allie. She held me against her for one long moment, and then she let go, pushing something into my hand and walking to the center of the circle. My heart pounded. Right then, I felt fear. Real fear. My mama was gonna die, there in front of me. I opened my hand. Inside was a jagged rock, still lying hot from the sand.
Folks, we've got one more reader before intermission. California girls are undeniable. Fine, fresh, fierce, moving through the redwood forests, swifter than smoke, silent as shadows, black blood dripping from grizzly bear fangs, wearing a sensible hoodie in the summer because it gets cold. They're not hunting you, they're toying with you. California girls are unforgettable. You want to forget. You drink and drink and drink to forget. Wine, whiskey, vodka, moonshine. More times than you'd like to remember, you came this close to drinking bleach. Maybe that would finally scrub the memories clean. California girls are unrelenting. You thought you could escape them. You were wrong. Now put your hands up. Put your hands up. And put your hands together for Lauren Parker!
Hello, everyone. So I'm feeling a little insecure about my body right now.
Stop!
Wait. So I'm feeling a little insecure, but I'm going to share a hack. So whenever I feel insecure about my body, I remember that oppressors taught me to hate my body, and everything that oppressors fear is rad. Also, I have to pee, so I might speed up towards the end, but hate it. This piece is called "I Was a Fuckable Child." It's okay.
I warned you!
I'm gonna change the title. I was a sweet child and nothing bad happens. Anyway, enjoy this essay. I began to hit puberty when body glitter was in its heyday. It came in various containers: hand lotion bottles, soap pump dispensers, tubs full of gel that you could scoop out and spread on your skin so that you radiated everywhere, whether in sunshine or fluorescent lighting. I bought it at the gas station near my house, where it was wedged between the butterfly clips and the chewy taffies. I lived in a working class division in a suburb of Detroit, one of those really far away suburbs, where people liked being far away from the city, but were close enough that their art museum memberships paid for themselves. It wasn't a very nice place. The houses were metal siding in various shades of white, taupe, and forest green, with accents of fake rock. The lawns were flat, but it still had the trees you could fall out of and the tetanus you could acquire from hopping fences. The body glitter came in all sorts of shades. I preferred the baby blue because I had learned that pink was for girls, and for some reason that was bad. No one told me it was bad per se, but they didn't have to. I would wear it on my cheeks, my arms, rub it on my legs, shimmering everywhere I went, leaving a trail of metallic crumbs behind me. From 1998 to 2000, it was crammed into my cuticles, smeared on my trapper keepers, and dusted into the part of my hair. When body glitter was king, I started growing boobs. I was an early bloomer, the sort of pubescent girl whom young female teachers hate because they had signed up to teach elementary school kids and not menstruating children who hadn't figured it all out yet. I beat the puberty video. The hair started to sprout. I began to keep my arms forced down at my sides so no one would see the dark sweat rings around my pits. And I had gotten so tall and my legs so long, I was seated at a table in the back of the class by myself, instead of at the usual cluster of desks. That was fine by me, I was getting bullied anyway. It actually wasn't fine. I was lonely and desperate to show how smart I was, still in possession of childlike exuberance that couldn't be contained. I was commonly confused for a teacher, towering over every boy in school, and all of my pants were high waters. It was mortifying. Also, strange men started yelling at me from cars. I have a list I call the resume. Instead of my accomplishments, it's a collection of memories of terrible things men have done to me. Age 5. A man drives by my house and takes a picture of me. I smile. Age 9. A Jeep packed with teenage boys follows me for several blocks, stops in the middle of 4 lanes of residential traffic, and say, "Hey baby, need a ride?" I was drinking a Sprite. For years, I thought of myself as prudish for not getting in the car. I don't drink Sprite anymore. Age 10, a boy named Noah takes a shine to me in my neighborhood. He's 15. That doesn't bother him though. I'm so hot anyway. I had always feared men as a child. Not actively, but I found them unpredictable. No one explicitly told me to avoid them, but it was hidden in all of the stranger danger of the post-80s. The strangers you weren't supposed to take candy from were men. Noah wasn't a man though. He was 5 years older, but he looked young for his age. He was shorter than me and was really into hip-hop and hockey and had enough confidence to talk to me. Noah was pretty fascinated by my body. He spent a lot of time talking about how hot I was because I had no experience with male interaction besides childhood playmates and adult men telling me I was a looker. I had no idea how to respond. Noah would look at me in a way that I still recognize as danger. It was not the sensual lust found in noir, but the smug satisfaction of dominion. I courted the attention, but is it really asking for it if you're 10 and he's 15? For 2 years, I convinced myself that Noah was my friend, and that his constant touching and commenting on my body to me and his friends was okay. Sexuality is considered capital, but what good is currency if it doesn't spend? When its only value is to be hoarded, and you can't trade it for safety, security, or protection. What is sexual capital to a 10-year-old? I have never gotten so much sexual attention as when I was 10 years old. The trouble with sexual capital is it's not symbolic. Gold has value because we say it does. You cannot be gold. You can only have it. I switched from baby blue glitter to bright neon yellow. I tried to be gold. Why didn't I get help? I actually tried and got cold feet. I told my DARE officer. I even called it sexual harassment. He offered to talk to Noah. I declined. That was too real. I wasn't ready to be so exposed. I didn't want him to know I had told anyone. I didn't know how to go back to being a freak if the attention stopped. With Noah, I was something closer to acceptable. To my peers, I was an oversized hormone monster, an omen of sweat stains yet to come. My body kept growing, my bones ached from stretching. And being little and cute was impossible. I couldn't shrink or camouflage. My body was a statement, a subversion. People are unkind to those who cannot assimilate. Adults would tell me how tall I was and how grown up I looked. And if you look the part, close enough. From random men on the street to my mother's colleagues, my changing body was a topic of discussion. Something to be parsed. I imagine this is why Noah telling me I had nice tits was refreshing. At least I knew what it meant. Maybe my fear of men grew because I was becoming closer to food, fruit budding with the hope of ripening and hitting the ground before something ate me alive. I gave up with assimilation by making myself appear as tall and as loud as possible, trying to take up more space like a butterfly painting eyes on its wings. Kids at school wouldn't speculate as loudly about my gender if I sparkled. But Noah was kind to me, if kind was affirming my femininity by molesting me. But I would put on my roller skates every night and circle the neighborhood, hoping I'd see him, until his silhouette emerged from the dark, and the fear would set in, the discomfort that I stifled, insisting this was courtship. I suppressed the desire to go home and listen to the Backstreet Boys album again, and put on body glitter, don armor in the safety of my bedroom where its powers could never be tested, and it lived just for me. I began reading Glamour and Cosmo to learn about sex, figuring it would be useful. I think I wanted to talk about sex like I had it, like an adult, so that he would be impressed or intimidated or captivated. I knew phrases like doggy style, but I didn't really know what they meant. I wasn't exactly sure anyway. I stole the magazines from my dentist office and from friends' houses and the discard pile of the library. I cannot emphasize enough how you should not learn to be an empowered sexual human from 1996 Cosmo sex I learned how to keep him interested, how to spice things up, and to be more sexually confident in my victimization. No one thing happened, there was no crescendo. It's narrative entropy. There was no woodsman cutting me out of the stomach of a wolf. I just moved away, writing to him often enough to still be embarrassing. Writing him stories that we were lovers, leaning heavily on the vocabulary Glamour and Cosmo had taught me in those dentist waiting rooms. Maybe if I performed all this, he'd love me, and all this danger would be neutralized. I want to scream at my 10-year-old self. Still, I want to shame her, to shake her and ask her why she didn't get herself out of that situation. Why she kept seeking it out. Why she just didn't stay inside instead of tying on her roller skates. How could she have been so stupid? How could she not have seen that wasn't love? That she was being taken advantage of? Poor little girl doesn't even have me on her side. She's frozen in time, frozen in those skates, her eyelids twinkling from damp glittery gel. She saved up all of her allowance to buy so she could feel beautiful and powerful. I spent so much of 2 years of my life trying to make a relationship out of violation, to continually call it love, to continually make it love. If not love, then sex on equal footing, to create consent where none could possibly exist. To not let it be something that was happening to me, to figure out how to not feel so conflicted, so titillated, and so frightened. Noah got a girlfriend when I was in 6th grade, and I handled it badly. Not Boyle as Bunny badly, but it was crushing. See? I have to compare myself to the jilted lover. That's the joke. Like I entered into a sexual situation, made it something that it wasn't, and was furious that it didn't go my way. But I wasn't Noah's tragic ex. I was his victim. I kept waiting for a boy 5 years older than me, grooming me to give me something other than panic. You can never be gold, you can only have it. Now I hope he's forgotten me, that weird emotional child he knew. Worried that he somehow still has power to exert, that his capacity to humiliate me will come for me like a scandal. I worry everyone will know, everyone will see how I was a bystander for my own abuse. It still keeps me up at night, the worry that he's circling, that his face will be in a crowd, with that same smirk on his face. In my early 20s, I felt like I'd missed my opportunity to be desirable. My body finally stopped growing in the acceptable ways, and the discussion quieted as I was no longer grown up for my age. I was no longer fascinating in this micro-adult child being, but just an adult with a zero body confidence and a stash of rapidly expiring body glitter. My junior year at my private liberal arts college, we studied Lolita. For those who haven't read it, Lolita is a novel where the protagonist, Humbert Humbert, a middle-aged literature professor, becomes obsessed with and eventually rapes a 12-year-old girl. Gorgeous poetic prose is devoted to describing how mature Lolita looks, how womanly, to strip her of her girlhood, to rush her capacity to entice Humbert Humbert. My professor, trying to create sympathy for an anti-hero, told my class a story about his 19-year-old friend who dated a 13-year-old girl. He assured us all it was consensual, implying that rushing to judgment was unenlightened. I found my mother's photo albums in the attic last year. Developed snapshots of me in my prime, the age where my body betrayed me and convinced all those men I was so much more prepared for their constant stroking. There was one of me in a two-piece swimsuit, and instead of Jessica Rabbit or some other developed caricature of femininity, I expected to look less juvenile, to look at least 16, but I didn't. My legs looked like that of a fawn, my body wet from the pool like a caterpillar in a chrysalis. I looked so childlike, elfin features, large feet I hadn't grown into, the sort of stretched and warped body when you're growing so fast and you can't eat enough. Body glitter is back in style with the tattooed necklaces and other 90s trends. I still wear it in the form of glitter liquid highlighter. Gold, of course. I'm happy to see it come back, to have it stuck in my fingers, smearing onto the screen of my phone. I choose to be seen, resplendent, shining like the sun. If you're going to look at me, I'll give you something to look at. My body was a thing that happened to me, something to survive. And now I'm a warrior, armored and glimmering. My hard jeweled shell as brassy as a cicada. Glitter is something he can never take from me. Thank you.
They're feeding off my energy. You're feeding off my energy. Make a noise! Make a bigger noise! Folks, we got another reader for you. Very exciting. Our next reader is just a little booty trying to become Saint Booty. She don't live anywhere, and she's not from anywhere. Put every goddamn appendage together for Annie Terrain!
I can't see any of you, so that's actually kind of nice for me. So I've actually never done a reading before, mostly because anytime someone asks me, I say no. So I'm still not going to do a reading, at least not a traditional type of reading. I pre-recorded it, but I did it in one take just to kind of like keep authenticity. This is basically for Meg because I love her and she asked me to do it. So he's right. I want to become Saint Booty. Booty Rising has been kind of like my art piece since my like independent publishing company like went kaput. And basically, you're going to see the birth of Saint Booty today in a weird performance piece over something I've pre-recorded. So be nice. Pre-Booty. I think this is a story about labor, about laboring in a body that can't look anyone in the eye, but will stare boldly into the abyss. For that reason, this is also a story about loneliness. When I was young, a terrible thing happened to me. It's the type of terrible thing that jolts me awake from a deep sleep in the middle of the night, asking me to reconcile my existence. Frantically feeling for all of my body parts, frantically feeling for a pulse. Yes, I am real. Yes, that happened. Yes, I have survived. I have survived even if there are moments where I only feel like a hollow, fat body. I have survived. When I am awake, I'm trying to reconcile something else. Maybe just a different type of existence, a tangible one you don't awaken from. You know, those moments where you can't feel anything except for the weight of your own flesh, gravity pulling every ounce of fat towards the earth, while the hollowness of your insides threatens to float away with the wind. You're wedged tightly between neither here nor there, in a body not even a mother can love. The body is just a vessel. Its hollowness fills with other things, things of substance and otherwise, things a mother can love, things a mother doesn't have to convince herself to love. You tether in this space long enough between the hollow and between the gravity, you start to forget your own strength, believing instead in the myths that have informed your body. You start to forget why your body exists. Regardless, yes, you are real. And yes, you have to find a way to live with that. Part 2, Booty Rising, or the rise of the booty. Tragedy and triumph. I repeat this to myself as I wait for his Greyhound to get in from Portland. I'm not sure what it means, but the body, now with the booty attached, knows this mantra well. It's 2010, the year my body spent its summer inside of a car, sweat rolling down its shoulders, the backseat of the car full of Cheeto Puffs and store-bought French baguettes. His idea, of course, his shopping list. My body, the poor angel, was already tired, anticipating the malnourishment to come, and we had barely left the grocery store parking lot in my hometown. The same hometown I had left 3 years prior, and am now leaving again. A month and a half later, my body had bent from the labor. It bent into itself, out of itself. It bent in every direction, none of it useful, and all of it hurt. I had labored over a failed tour, a failed relationship, and now a failed body. All I got in the end was a twin mattress on the floor of my new Brooklyn apartment that my roommates had covered in condoms in anticipation of our arrival. Adrian slept on the couch, and I slept on top of the condoms alone. I locked my bedroom door, and I watched The Wonder Years for 3 days straight. And when I finally came out, we were strangers again. Unfortunately, this story goes on, but in my new body, it ends here. What lives here, if anything at all? I recite this to myself every morning in the mirror, sometimes out loud, mostly in my head. I'm 26 now, renting a big house back in my hometown after 8 years gone. 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, and an orange tree in the backyard. It's summer now, and the 2 lavender bushes in the front yard that I'd become acquainted with months prior have now become 3. They can have the whole yard for all I care. I think this as I get into my white 2007 Camry, the same one with the loaves of store-bought French baguettes in the back seat from 5 years prior, except this time I'm on the way to my grandmother's funeral. The same grandmother that braided my hair before bed during the first 9 years of my life. Little did I know I would also be mourning that Camry that so lovingly held those loaves of store-bought French baguettes only 2 months later. I'm standing on a familiar corner. My parents used to have a bank on this corner. My legs are covered in blood and I hear crying, feeling certain they are not my cries. I watch the Camry get towed away in pieces and I realize I'm not standing. My booty is fixed on the ground, but I'm not sure in what direction. Had I always been on the ground? Was I ever standing? It doesn't matter. I frantically feel for my body, frantically feel for a pulse. Yes, I am real. Yes, that happened. Yes, I have survived. Part 3, the patron saint of booties. I am angry. And I think I've been angry for a very long time. I hear Taylor's voice in my head saying, Annie, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I hurt you. I love you more than anyone else in my life. My growth isn't linear, but I'm trying. I respond to an empty room. Growth is never linear, but I feel like when you backtrack, I'm the one you're running into. You run into me as if my body isn't made of soft flesh, the same as yours. Look at my body. Stare into it and tell me where I'm not flesh. Tell me where I'm not real. I'm tired, Taylor. I'm suffocating. My body is suffocating against the weight of us. I bury us in a tender place in an unmarked grave. I live on the beach now. There's no sign of you here. I feel strong and confident in the silence of my new town. My body feels new, and it feels sturdy against the wind, and it can look anything in the eye.
Plot twist, I have no idea how to do a mic stand thing. Yeah, all right. You may know me as Lewis Evans, the clitless clitorado, or if you work for the Locks of Love Foundation, you might know me as Target codename, the one that got away. Applaud so I feel good about myself. Just applaud for my hair. So we can see which one of the two of us really is putting people in seats.
It's the hair.
It's the hair. It's great. It's great. The story of this hair is I shaved it all off for a performance. Nope.
It's a sign from God.
The story of this... It's really the knob that you have to work. Once you work the knob, the shaft itself falls into place, or it really reaches the length that you need. This is actually a really good setup for the piece. Everyone, you don't know yet, but it's great. Thank you, Chris. Before we begin my story, I want to say this story is a fantasy. In fact, it's several different fantasies. And the nature of most of these fantasies is going to become clear over the course of the text. But I want to call out one in particular in advance. This story relies on a fantasy about drone warfare. It indulges in the delusion that building robots to hunt and kill strangers is a clean, orderly, and responsible affair, rather than a knowing policy of the bloody slaughter of innocents. This story plays along with that fantasy. As Americans, we should not. And on that extremely cheery note, I give you, I swear to God, the funniest piece of the night. Surgical strike! Half-dozen screens split the feed from the drone into a spider's kaleidoscope vision. Night ops in the suburbs. Dark, detached houses, sparse trees. The drone's onboard AI effortlessly avoided a handful of telephone wires as it cruised toward the target's home. Look, Ma, no joystick. The operator controlled it with no more than an occasional keystroke. The drone glided into standoff range, hovered in place. The view showed a handful of darkened windows, one illuminated behind cheap Target curtains. Blue light, no flickering, someone was having a late night online. Heat vision superimposed itself on the scene, a single figure in bed with a laptop. A hitherto dark screen lit up, white command line on black background scrolled past as the drone automatically hacked its way into local Wi-Fi and cell networks. Page after page of code, and then a single flashing number, a cell phone MAC address. Whoever was lounging on that bed, he had the target's cell in his pocket. Metadata's good. We don't engage until we have visual confirmation that the subject is the target. A hard look. This isn't the army. You're not my fucking boss. We processed this. We have consensus. Follow the plan. Fine. The drone, unnoticed, was still hacking on autopilot. Another screen flared in the darkness. The subject's laptop mirrored. Yet another, the subject's webcam, activated in secret. They studied the subject's face in the dark cavern of the command center. Pale skin, hint of stubble, dark jaw. Cheekbones that in another light might have been handsome, but between the sneer on the lips and the witch light of the laptop seemed heartless instead. But nobody could identify the target by his face. Long hours rolled by. They watched the subject browse the internet. They watched him scroll through Twitter, Facebook, blogs, and pornography. They watched him fire off anonymous comments with abandon, dripping with sexualized derision. They watched him write with greater care and restraint on named platforms. I just think that as a woman, you haven't considered both sides. It's obviously him. We don't engage without visual confirmation. It's been 3 fucking hours. Are you gonna make me wait all night outside of this scum's house? As many nights as we... Chimes. The subject had grabbed his phone, thumbed it on. A steady beeping, and then the drone hacked that phone too, mirrored it onto one of their screens. Camera app. On the heat vision screen, the red glowing mannequin fumbled at its crotch. Lurid and red like beef tongue in a butcher's shop, the subject's penis appeared on the screen in the light of his phone's camera. And again, a series of photographs. It's gotta be. Let the computer make the call. We need to be certain. The final program of the evening, long dormant, spun into action. The subject's penis, the target's penis, the image recognition neural net that had studied the target's penis over and over with machine monomania, memorizing its every feature, its aesthetic fingerprint. One after another, the subject's photographs lit up with green borders, 98, 97, 98, 99.99999. Confirmed match. The subject was the target. That's him. I told you, go! Just a few more of those keystrokes. A single finger stabbed the return key. Miles away in that suburban street, the drone's rotors climbed from a buzz to a whine. It fought for height. 1 story, 2, 3. At 20 meters above the ground, the drone folded its wings and dove like a falcon. A rush of air, the tinkle of glass, nothing worse than neighborhood kids putting a baseball through the window. On the control room screens in loving slow motion, the feed from the high-speed cameras as the drone hurtled into the room. The target's face slack with that emotion that precedes even surprise, his eyes hunting for the source of the noise. In multifarious megapixels, his penis, turgid in his hand, the loving tracery of automated target acquisition caressing its every ridge and fold. That orgasmic spike and ejaculatory gush in the capacitors as all 4 megawatt lasers fired in unison. And darkness as the successful drone neatly imploded, a little death. Hugs, cheering, applause in the command center. Champagne and kombucha and the rush of voices who felt the sudden release of tension long banked. And in that suburb, miles distant, a hand enveloping a void, a neatly cauterized stump. A man unmanned. You can make a noise. Or don't. They can hear you. It was not the first man so wounded who went to the police, nor was it the second. It is tempting to speculate as to the motives of those men who kept the secret, who entered into a pact of silence with their mutilators, who gouged a small hole in the burnt flesh of their genitals and pissed sitting for the rest of their private lives, who ended relationships and friendships and sauna on Thursday appointments without warning or explanation. But it is impossible to know the motives of those who move in silence. If they feared ridicule, they were not wrong to do so. It was perhaps the 6th or the 10th or the 12th man who went to the police. The officers laughed at him, of course. Sure, buddy, a drone vaporized your dick. Okay. He insisted, and so they said, show us. He would not show them. He had nothing to show, and said so. They accused him of lying, threatened him with making a false report, shooed him out of the station. It was easy to imagine the first man a lone nut in light of his lack of hard evidence. And the victims were spread out enough that few police stations had more than one reporter. Those that did attributed the sudden rash of strange claims to a postmodern penis panic. But if you cauterize the penises of the scum of the internet in areas hundreds of miles wide, you will eventually evaporate the member of a man whose rage outpaces his shame. Kieran Kemsky stood in the police station lobby, pants and boxers around his ankles. The boxers were patterned with a repeated motif of turgid cock and balls and pursed red lips. Kieran's penis was entirely gone. Yeah, he shouted. A fucking drone vaporized my fucking cock. What are all you sniveling cucks gonna do about it? What they did eventually was book him for public indecency. Mr. Kemsky's testicles remained unvaporized and entirely visible throughout his public petition, and under the eyes of the law, the balls are just as bad. But it could be no longer denied that at least one drone had vaporized at least one penis belonging to at least one American citizen. If the government cannot protect American penises from vaporization, what use is it anyway? The machinery of justice ground slowly into action. The police made, as it is said, their inquiries. It took a gentler touch than they were used to, but as the cops massaged the public, more and more victims began to drip out. Police departments went through the Voltron origami jurisdictional contortions of such cases, and they assembled an interagency task force. As pure police work, the case was a nightmare. Like all the worst features of a serial killer, nothing connected the victims. They were of different ages, races, nationalities. They lived in different cities and towns and worked different jobs. The sexual angle was obvious, but even there the victims had nothing in common. Virgins and playboys and husbands and everything in between. No shared jilted lovers, no previous connections. It is said, fish do not know that they're wet. Sturgeon Holmes would never solve a case of drowning. The detectives were not idiots. They did ask, did you take pictures of your penis? So-called dick pics, they said, fingers heavy as they inscribed quotation marks in air. Did you send those dick pics to people on the internet? And the victim said, well, yeah, doesn't everybody?
Oh.
The cops kept a handle on things as the tide of victims swelled, kept things quiet for months. No noise, but no progress either. A succession of drones had vaporized these dicks, but everyone and their kid brother had a drone. They cost maybe 4 or 5 times as much as a burrito. The average suburban street saw a drone every 6 minutes. Amazon or fast food or something illicit. If the Drug Enforcement Agency can't stop a drone from delivering heroin and ecstasy to your house in 15 minutes or your money back, and they can't, snort some blow and call your senator. How the hell can local California police departments hunt down a handful of dick-seeking killbots among millions? The tension grew, but the grip of the police held. No need to panic the penis-packing public. And then the perps hit a celebrity. Too Chill was a streamer, a vlogger. He'd broken out as one of the leading lights of the second wave extreme unboxing craze, ridden that for a while. Fallen into obscurity and climbed back out of it for his willingness to skirt the edges of sexual acceptability on the major streaming services. He was perhaps best known for his I'd Hit It monthly show where he had sex with whatever had won last month's poll. Sure, he never showed his junk on camera, but it somehow managed to be all the more tasteless for that. Giant eggplant emojis plastered over his groin as he coupled madly with the latest children's toy craze. Yeah, just have a moment, it's fine. It turned out Mr. Chill was as explicit with his female fans, regardless of their age, as he was coy with the public. Somehow, this controversy only redoubled his fame, dectupled his income. One morning, as Too Chill on live streaming YouTube placed his emoji-censored penis in the mouth of a sex doll cruelly painted to resemble one of his more public critics, there was a high, sharp whine from outside the frame. The sound of shattering glass, a flash too bright for the screen. And then the camera stumbling as the crew rushed to surround the fetal and defallused form of their erstwhile meal ticket. 2 million were streaming live, nearly 100 million watched it in the next 24 hours. Cops couldn't keep a lid on it, so they looked the public right in the eye and lied like a politician who knows that the journalists have only found one of many, many orgy-frequenting mistresses. We believe this was a one-time attack. We're following every lead. The public has nothing to fear. There were bubblings and murmurings from conspiracy-minded corners, but the crust of denial held for 4 more days. Rockford Beauregard was a movie star, come podcast host, come dispenser of hoary advice chestnuts from a wise old millennial to the riotous menagerie of generations that had followed. His wisdom was simple, homespun, and clear. Never post something online you wouldn't say to your grandma. Your armpits and your email, they both need a thorough cleaning. In the post-#MeToo world, it must be admitted that Rockford, real name Caden Vittner, had a well-publicized track record of a certain level of rapey indelicacy with his girlfriends. In the post-#MeToo world in which Rockford lived, it was not even necessary to deny these facts or smear these unfortunate exes over much. Everyone just sort of shrugged and got on with things. And so, the tone of triumph was no surprise when indie feminist web news zine Bitch in Terabang gleefully broke the story that Mr. Beauregard's penis had been obliterated in the bathroom at his podcast studio during a commercial break. The floodgates burst and the truth came roaring out. Not just celebrities and the vocationally odious, but also titans of industry and commerce, the extremely quiet and exceptionally rich. More damningly, the frighteningly ordinary. Men who lived lives of quiet satisfaction and leavened that satisfaction with a thoroughly commonplace smattering of cruelty and cockshots online. CNN Skyped Lorena Gallo, nee Bobbitt, at her Florida retirement home. The chevrons indicated that the anchorman was broadcasting from an undisclosed location, for some reason. Lorena laughed, rolled back over in bed, hung up on them. The governor of California called for all drones to be grounded throughout the state. Amazon's regional director of PR made it clear that if this happened, the governor would lose his recall election before he could fly back from his fact-finding trip to Thailand. And in fact, the governor proved remarkably loath to return to California, land of the unregulated drone army. For some reason. Within days, the first manifestos began to drop, claiming credit for the attacks. Soon there were dozens, thousands. Most were that dull commonplace of the selfie cam age. The talking head captured addressing its own image. A few had real production values. Women and genderqueer shock troops posing like Black Panthers, laser pointers in one hand and drone chassis in the other. One of them was put out by an anarchist circus. Of course, the police, the state troopers, the FBI, and when relevant, the highway patrol questioned these purported perps, but none of them were in fact responsible. The reign of terror continued. Dick pics dropped to a planetary low, not seen since the days of the daguerreotype. Bottled-up misogynists were reduced to shouting at women in their actual lives, who then had the option of hitting them over the head with various handy implements. When a sting operation finally nabbed the mysterious assailants, the world breathed out a sigh that quavered between relief and disappointment. The Direct Intervention Castration Committee, that's DICK, was, in the end, exactly what everyone had expected. 6 sexual radicals and intersectional feminists, squatting together in a warehouse in a mid-sized city in the East San Francisco Bay. 3 were dropouts of prestigious engineering programs, advanced artificial intelligence and aeronautics, the pre-drone war track. And the other 3 were their polyamorous lovers. Divorce and race and gender identity in the long-standing California fashion. The news cameras hovered lasciviously over shared beds and homebrewed kombucha and the warehouse detritus of countless fruitless protests. Literally hovered, these were news drones. None of the committee would sit for interviews or reply to shouted questions from human reporters or crowdsourced drone screamers. Only once did the mask crack. Reporters managed to separate Sister Gloria, birth name Sofia Julieta Maria Estaves Martinez, from the other 5 defendants. They showed her a video of her teenage speech at a high school protest. Her impassioned and precise words in favor of nonviolent civil disobedience. "How did you go so wrong?" they asked. Gloria smiled. "It worked, didn't it?" And then the guards and the lawyers managed to muscle her away. The committee did not plead guilty. They lawyered up and prepared to fight every charge, and so voir dire the choosing of a jury. Are you familiar with the Direct Intervention Committee? Never heard of them. They were the ones who vaporized the genitals of, them. A certain shifting in the seats, hands drifting down innocently between the legs. Yeah, I don't think, I could really be fair in a case like that. And again until 60 candidate jurors sat in the box. The prosecutor coughed. Your Honor, it does not escape the state's notice that not one of the potential jurors is in possession of a penis. Your point? The state feels that a jury that is immune to the crimes committed by the perpetrators cannot possibly... Your point, counselor? The state requests permission to offer extraordinary protection to candidate jurors. Very well. They offered anonymizing masks and titanium jockstrap cups and witness protection. They offered round-the-clock defense drones and free relocation to tropical paradises and guaranteed synthetic replacement penises paid for by the government. And what do you know? They scraped and scrounged and managed to impanel a jury. Didn't help much, though. After 6 months of closed-chamber trial and 7 days of deliberation, the jury returned a verdict. It was hung. The state heaved a long-suffering sigh and set about trying to find a brand new jury composed of at least 50% accidental eunuchs, when one bright afternoon, a phalanx of men in very boring suits appeared at the prison, said that Uncle Sam needed the committee for his research projects on next-generation drone/psych warfare, and made them disappear off the face of the earth. Well, maybe it really was Uncle Sam. Every 3-letter agency denied it, for all the good that does. Maybe, the theory got out, it was an undetected arm of committee sympathizers who all rolled natural 20s on their bluff checks. Maybe it was a foreign power. Maybe it was little gray men from space. In the age of the post-truth net, one loses track of easy answers. There were, at least, no more dick pic targeted penis vaporizations attributed to the committee. And the wave of copycat attacks was no larger than expected and generally less well organized. But still, decades later, all across the nation and indeed the globe, whenever men reached for their phallus with one hand and their phone with another, that low drone whine could stop them dead in their tracks. The end. So good. Where can these fine people find all your work? Well, you can friend me on Facebook. I post a lot of shit there.
Yeah, you do.
If you didn't see it in the lead up to the show, my go-to joke for this show is, how do you get a beach body? You dump a corpse off a boat. Seriously, hit me up on Facebook. I don't have any published work out there right now. In the near future, I am going to be starting a public-facing creative writing web project. So keep your ears peeled for this. It's called Seed Round.
Yeah!
Yeah, is there anything else I should say about me? No? All right, you all know me. We're going to bring everyone else back up on here for one last round of applause. Cliterary Salon. This has been Beach Bodies. Maggie Ellison, Annie Terrain, Lauren Parker, Claire is somewhere, and I'm Lewis Evans. Come to our next show, September 21st. In this same place at the same time. Oh my God, it's Claire. Make noise for Claire. Make noise for all of us. We love you. Love us back. Thank you so much for coming. It's been such a pleasure vaporizing your genitals. We've been Cliterary Salon. We love you and good night. Does anyone else want to say anything?
I'm really sorry about your genitals.
Some of us are sorry about your genitals. Good luck with the rest of your weekend. Oh no, I completely forgot. Katie Morton, our artist, is going to be doing chalk art down in Palo Alto all weekend. They're going to be doing a recreation of a Goya painting on the street. And if you want to see them make that art and, pop a little booty in the air, they're not a saint booty, but it is a booty situation. So I did want to mention that. All right. We love you.